when I finally spoke up, and it changed my life. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. Is that your signature on the safety log, Jordan? The judge asked, and Vince finally stopped smiling. My throat went dry as dust. The courthouse air conditioning hummed like it was bored with my life falling apart. I could feel Vince's stare from the defense table, warm, familiar, and sharp as a blade. I was 28, the payroll and safety admin for V&V Construction, a mid-sized outfit in the suburbs that my stepfather ran like a kingdom. On paper, I tracked hours, filed incident reports, and made sure our OSHA binder looked pretty. In reality, I was the quiet kid who learned early that speaking up meant punishment, and silence meant dinner stayed peaceful. I'd spent years being useful, being agreeable, being the person who fixed problems without anyone having to admit they existed. The trade-off was I got a paycheck, a place in the family photo, and a seat at Dana's table. The cost was I became the guy who swallowed his own voice. That morning, the county clerk stamped Exhibit 12 and slid it to the bailiff. A photocopy of a form I had signed on October 3rd, 2024 at 7:12 a.m. A daily safety briefing log for Site 7B, the one where Rosa got hurt. Except I wasn't there at 7:12. I had a Starbucks receipt from 719 across town, and my phone GPS showed me sitting in traffic on River Parkway at 7:15. Vince had told everyone I forged the paperwork after the accident to cover my own mistakes. He'd said it with that calm, helpful voice he used for customers. He'd said it to my mother. He'd said it to the insurer. He'd said it to the workers. He'd said it so many times it almost sounded true. If the court believed him, I'd lose my job, my professional license, and probably my mother. I'd already drained my savings paying attorney Kim to keep me from signing a confession. Vince slid under my apartment door like a gift. Agent Patel sat 3 rows behind me, expression unreadable. Attorney Kim's hand brushed my sleeve, one tiny reminder to breathe. The judge looked down at me again. Mr. Hale, answer the question. Across the aisle, Vince leaned forward, mouth forming my childhood command. Don't. Then the prosecutor played the audio Vince never knew I had. People think silence is just the absence of sound. In our house, it was a rule. When I was 10, I dropped a glass at dinner, and it shattered across the tile like ice. Vince didn't yell. He didn't need to. He just looked at me and said, Jordan, you don't make messes at my table. Dana rushed in with a broom, cheeks flushed, whispering, It's okay, honey, just don't set him off. That was my mother's favorite phrase. Don't set him off. Don't embarrass him. Don't argue. Don't talk back. Don't correct him in front of people. She said it like she was protecting me, and maybe she thought she was, but what she really did was teach me how to fold myself smaller. By high school, I was a master at disappearing. If Vince told a story that wasn't true, I nodded. If he took credit for something I did, I smiled. When he introduced me to neighbors as my payroll kid, I laughed like it was a joke and not my whole life. Even at work, the pattern stuck. Vince would clap me on the shoulder in the office and say, This is Jordan, the brains, like I was a pet he was proud of. Then he'd close the door and hiss, You are not smarter than me. You are not better than me. You remember who feeds you. I remembered. The week before the accident, he called me into his office. A framed newspaper photo of him shaking hands with the mayor sat on his desk, right next to a tiny trophy that said Community Builder. You're behind on the compliance binder, he said. I'm not, I told him carefully. We passed the last inspection. His eyes narrowed. Carefully was still too close to disagreement. Dana was in the hallway pretending not to listen. I could see her through the glass, folding invoices like origami. Vince leaned closer. Do you want to keep living in that apartment, Jordan? My mouth opened, then shut. My rent was due in 5 days. Dana's health insurance was tied to the business. I swallowed my truth and said the sentence he trained me to say. I'll handle it. Vince smiled again, like he'd won something. 2 days later, Rosa came to payroll, bruised, asking where her overtime went. October 3rd started like every other Thursday. Burned coffee, dust in my throat. Vince texting, Don't forget the insurance call, at 6:41 a.m. Site 7B was a commercial build near the interstate. Rebar, scaffolding, concrete forms everywhere. I wasn't supposed to be on site that early, but Vince demanded I show my face. Rosa came into the trailer to sign her time card, rubbed her wrist, and said, Jordan, I'm at 62 hours for the week. Your last check didn't match. I pulled up payroll on my laptop. Her overtime line was blank. Again, that's not me, I said, hearing how weak it sounded. She stared at me. Then who is it? Before I could answer, someone shouted outside. A metallic screech, then a bang that made my ribs jump. I ran out and saw a pallet of drywall swinging from the crane. The strap had frayed. The load clipped the scaffold. Rosa was on it. She didn't fall all the way. She slammed into the guardrail and the rail snapped. She went down 2 levels and hit the deck hard, shoulder first, then head. For a second, everything was still. Then men started moving. Someone yelled for 911. Someone yelled for Vince. Vince arrived in under 3 minutes. He crouched beside Rosa, put on his best concerned face, and said loud enough for everyone, "Rosa, you okay? Jordan, did you run the morning safety briefing?" My brain stuttered. "I what?" He stood, turning to the crew like he was their pastor. "Everyone calm down. We're going to document this properly." He pulled me behind the trailer, voice dropping. "You're going to say you did the briefing. You're going to say the straps were inspected. You're going to say Rosa climbed where she wasn't supposed to." "She didn't," I said, and it came out sharper than I meant. His hand squeezed my shoulder hard. "Do not make me repeat myself." Rosa's eyes were open now, glassy with pain. She tried to lift her arm and whimpered. Vince shoved a clipboard into my hands like it weighed 100 pounds. "Sign," he said softly, "and keep your family." Rosa reached for my sleeve and whispered one word. "Please." Rosa spent 2 nights in the hospital. Concussion, the doctor said. Broken collarbone. Torn rotator cuff. I visited once, bringing flowers like a coward, and Vince texted me the whole time. "Keep it short. No promises." Back at the office, the incident packet appeared on my desk like it had always been there. Vince wanted it filed by noon. The insurer wanted it by end of day. "OSHA," he said, "won't show up if we look clean." I opened the folder and felt my stomach drop. The daily safety briefing log for October 3rd was already completed. Names printed neatly. Boxes checked. My signature at the bottom, looping J, and a hard underline I never used. The time stamped in the corner, 7:12 a.m. At 7:12, I was not giving a safety talk. I was stuck behind a school bus on River Parkway, tapping my steering wheel and listening to a podcast about people who solved mysteries for a living. I remembered because my mom had called to ask if I was coming for dinner, and I'd said, "Not tonight," and she'd sighed like I'd disappointed her. I pulled up my bank app. Starbucks, $6.38 at 7:19 a.m., the one on Maple and 4th. I pulled up my phone's location history. River Parkway at 7:15. I pulled up the office CCTV log. The trailer camera feed for that morning was missing. The file jumped from 6:58 to 7:34 like someone took scissors to time. I heard Vince's voice in my head. "We're going to document this properly." I printed the safety log and held it in my hand. The ink looked fresh, too dark for a form that had supposedly sat in a dusty trailer for hours. On the back was a faint indent, like it had been signed on top of a different document. Rosa's overtime complaint flashed through my mind. Missing footage. A forged signature. A backdated time. My hands shook as I walked into Vince's office. He was on the phone, laughing warmly, talking about a community toy drive. He covered the receiver and said, smiling, "What's up, kid?" I held up the log. "Why is my signature on this?" His smile didn't change, but his eyes did. "Because you signed it," he said. "I didn't," I whispered. He stood, slow and deliberate, and locked the door behind me. The lock clicked like punctuation. Vince walked around his desk and took the paper from my hand. He didn't look at it. He looked at me. "You're stressed?" he said softly, like he was comforting a child. "Accidents happen. You're overthinking." "I know my own signature." He tilted his head. "Do you?" I hated how calm he stayed. The calmer he was, the more I felt like I was the crazy one. "Jordan," he said, "you want to be helpful. That's your thing. You can be helpful right now." "I don't want Rosa blamed," I said. "She put herself in danger," he replied instantly. "And she's not stable. Always complaining. Always asking for extra money. She's asking for hours she already worked." Vince's nostrils flared. For half a second, his mask slipped. "You don't know what you're talking about." "I do payroll," I said, then regretted it. He stepped closer until I could smell his aftershave. "Listen carefully. The insurer is looking for a reason to deny coverage." OSHA is looking for a reason to fine us. If you want this company to survive, you do not create problems. So you forged my name? His eyes went flat. No, you signed it. You're just confused. He pointed at the framed photo of him shaking the mayor's hand. You know what happens if that man gets a call saying we falsified safety documents? You know what happens to Dana's insurance? To your paycheck? To your apartment? I tried to speak, but my voice caught. He patted my cheek. Light, humiliating. There you go? That's the Jordan I know. That night, we had dinner at Dana's. Vince grilled steaks, laughed loud, and told the story of that brave crew at Site 7B like it was a movie he produced. Dana kept refilling his wine and not looking at me. At one point, Dana said, Rosa called. She's scared. She thinks she'll get fired. Vince's smile didn't even flicker. Tell her she'll be taken care of. Dana touched my knee. Honey, just let Vince handle it, she whispered. I wanted to scream. Instead, I heard myself say, okay. When I got home, an envelope with my name waited on my door. The envelope was thick, no stamp, just my name in Vince's handwriting. Inside was a single sheet titled Voluntary Statement. It was already filled out. It said I, Jordan Hale, had neglected to complete the morning's safety briefing, and later signed the log retroactively in error. It said my mistake may have contributed to Rosa's accident. At the bottom was a blank line for my signature. A second page was clipped behind it. A personal loan agreement for $8,000, interest-free, to help Jordan through this difficult time. Like hush money dressed up as kindness. My phone buzzed. Vince, we can make this go away. Come by tonight. I sat on my couch staring at the papers until my eyes burned. Then I did something I'd never done in my life. I didn't call my mom. I didn't ask Vince what he wanted. I didn't try to smooth it over. I opened my laptop. If Vince could forge my signature, he could forge anything. If he'd already written a confession for me, he'd already decided I was disposable. I logged into the company server with my admin credentials, the ones Vince gave me because he liked having me close and controlled. I clicked through this safety folder. It was spotless, almost too spotless. Every file named perfectly. Every PDF dated neatly. Then I found a folder I'd never seen before, buried under 3 subfolders with boring titles. Archive, Old Forms, MISC. The icon had a tiny lock symbol, which shouldn't have been possible. My heart hammered. I tried my usual password. Denied. I tried Vince's favorite, the company anniversary date. Denied. Then I tried Dana's birthday. The folder opened like it had been waiting. Inside were scans of old time cards with handwritten edits, spreadsheets labeled Cache ADJ, and a PDF called 7B_CM_swap. PDF. I clicked it, and a single sentence stared back at me in big, bold letters. Replace footage before 9 a.m. I heard Vince's voice in my head again. Calm as syrup, we're going to document this properly. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely move the mouse. I started copying everything to a thumb drive anyway. A notification popped up in the corner of my screen. Admin login. Remote session started. I froze. The cursor twitched on its own, like someone else had grabbed my hand through the internet. I yanked the thumb drive out and killed the Wi-Fi. The remote session box vanished, but the warning stayed in my bones. Someone had seen me. The next morning I went in early, pretending nothing happened. Smile. Coffee. Copier paper. The quiet kid routine. Rosa texted from a number I didn't recognize. They're saying I broke the rules. Can you check my hours? I opened payroll and felt my stomach drop. It wasn't just Rosa. It was everyone. Hours rounded down. Overtime lines blanked. Notes like tool charge and cash reimbursement swallowing pay. A pattern so consistent it looked automated. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, repeated across months. 50 workers, each losing just enough to stay desperate. I opened the Cache ADJ spreadsheet from the hidden folder. The totals matched the missing wages almost perfectly. Columns labeled INS claim, inspect, and one labeled simply V. At lunch I cornered Marcus, a foreman who'd been around forever. He was smoking behind the dumpster, eyes on the site. Do you ever get your hours corrected? I asked. Marcus barked a laugh. Kid, you mean stolen? It's happening a lot. It's been happening forever, he said. People complain, they get fewer shifts. Or they get laid off, right before Christmas. He flicked ash and looked at me. Why? You finally see the math? I saw more than math. His face tightened. Then stop talking where walls have ears. That evening, I went to Rosa's apartment. Her arm was in a sling. Her son's homework covered the table. She held an eviction notice like it was a death certificate. My landlord posted this yesterday, she said. Because of the missing overtime, I whispered. Because of Vince, she snapped. And because everyone keeps quiet. I showed her screenshots, payroll edits, the V column, dates. Her eyes shined, but her voice stayed hard. This is proof, she said. This is years. I don't know what to do, I admitted. Rosa leaned closer. If you stay quiet, you're choosing his side. My phone buzzed with an unknown number, and the text was my address. I stared at the text until the screen dimmed. My street, my apartment number. No threat needed. Someone wanted me to know I wasn't anonymous. I didn't reply. I locked my door, closed the blinds, and opened the thumb drive like it was a live wire. A file labeled INS claim notes listed injuries, payouts, and something called rolling comp. Next to Rosa's name, $74,000. Next to that, deny if possible. Push fault to admin. Admin me. I clicked deeper, and the story got uglier. Fake subcontractor invoices, companies with addresses that were empty lots. Payments approved every month. Always just under the amount that triggered extra review. An email chain. Inspector wants the envelope before the 15th. Envelope. Cash. It clicked together in my head like teeth. Shaved wages became cash adjustments. Cash adjustments became bribes. Bribes kept inspections clean. Clean inspections kept insurance cheap. Cheap insurance kept Vince looking like the stable community hero. And when someone got hurt, he shoved blame onto a disposable person. This wasn't one bad choice. It was a system. Rosa called. I answered on the first ring. Someone's been outside, she said, voice tight. A man in a hoodie. He took pictures of my building. Are you safe? I asked. My kid is here, she whispered. That's what scares me. I told her about the insurance notes and the envelopes. She went quiet, then said, my cousin got hurt last year. Vince told him to sign papers. When he wouldn't, his hours disappeared. She swallowed. Then ICE showed up at his house. My stomach rolled. You think Vince called them? I think Vince uses whatever works, she said. I opened a spreadsheet labeled contacts, names, addresses, and a column called lever. Next to some workers, probation, custody, status. Next to Rosa's name, the lever cell said, kid. I backed away from the window and checked the peephole, barely breathing. Outside my window, a car door slammed, slow and deliberate. I didn't sleep. Every creak in the hallway sounded like boots. At 5:30 a.m., I drove to Dana's, not because it was smart, but because part of me still wanted my mother to be a mother. She opened the door in a robe, hair messy, eyes already tired. Jordan, why are you here? I need to talk to you alone, I said. Behind her, Vince's voice floated from the kitchen. Who is it, babe? Dana flinched. It's Jordan. Vince appeared, cheerful as a commercial. Hey, kid. You look pale. I'm fine, I lied. He kissed Dana's cheek and went back inside. Dana lowered her voice. What's going on? I showed her screenshots. The lever column, kid, next to Rosa, the insurance note about pushing fault to admin. Dana blinked, then shook her head like she could undo what she'd seen. That's not Vince, she whispered. Mom, I said, he forged my signature. He's stealing wages. He's setting me up. Dana's eyes darted toward the kitchen. He said you've been stressed, she murmured, like repeating it might make it true. I have receipts, I said. Timestamps. Files. Everything. Dana's mouth trembled. If you go after him, we lose everything. You mean you lose him? I said, and immediately hated how true it sounded. She whispered, I can't start over at 50. I felt something crack inside me, soft, then sharp. If I warn you, he'll destroy evidence, I said. So I can't. Dana grabbed my wrist. Her fingers were cold. Jordan, please. Just wait. Let me talk to him. No, I said, and for once my voice didn't shrink. I'm done waiting. That afternoon I met Rosa in the hospital cafeteria. She pushed her Jell-O around with a spoon while her son colored quietly beside her. I told my mom, I admitted. Rosa didn't soften. And she's terrified. Rosa leaned in, eyes steady. Jordan, if you stay quiet, you're choosing his side. I stared at the cameras and finally said it. I'm going to OSHA. Rosa nodded once. then move fast, because he's already moving. As I walked to my car, I saw Vince's truck 2 rows over, engine running. I drove out of the hospital lot like my tires were on fire. In my mirror, Vince's truck pulled out a minute later. I didn't go straight home. I looped through side streets, doubled back, tried to lose him. The truck stayed behind me anyway, patient, like it knew I couldn't run forever. When I got to my complex, everything looked normal. Christmas lights, barking dogs, neighbors with groceries. That normalcy felt like a trap. I locked my door. My phone buzzed. "Vince, come downstairs." I ignored it. Another buzz. "Vince, don't be dramatic. Let's talk." Then the intercom rang. I stared at the speaker like it might bite me. I could pretend I wasn't home. I could do what I always did. Instead, I pressed the button. "What do you want?" His voice came through smooth. "I want to help you, kid. Open the door." "No." A pause. Then, softer. "Jordan, Dana's crying." That hooked me the way it always did. I went down, telling myself I'd keep it calm. Vince stood in the lobby, hands in his coat pockets, smiling like we were meeting for coffee. He nodded toward the security camera. "Let's take a walk," he said. Outside, under orange streetlights, he spoke like a therapist. "Your mother is worried. She thinks you're making things bigger than they are." "I'm not," I said. He sighed. "Okay, here's the deal." He pulled out an envelope, thick. "Promotion. Safety manager. Better pay. Full benefits. We'll cover your rent for 6 months." His smile widened. "All you have to do is sign the statement and stop digging." "I didn't do anything wrong," I said. "People don't care about wrong," he murmured. "They care about stories. And I'm very good at stories." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you're fragile," he said. "If this goes public, they'll believe you panicked. They'll believe you forged paperwork to cover your mistake." "You're going to ruin me," I said. He leaned closer, voice gentle. "I'm going to protect my family. Are you in, or are you out?" I finally looked at the envelope. My name was on it again, along with 3 typed words underneath. "Return the drive." Vince's smile didn't reach his eyes. "You took something that isn't yours." I pulled the thumb drive from my sock drawer like it was contraband. Vince knew I'd taken something. The only reason he hadn't demanded it in person was because he still believed fear would work. I called attorney Kim at 11:47 p.m. She didn't answer. I left a message that sounded like panic. "He knows. I need help." At 6:10 a.m., she called back. "Jordan," she said, voice tight, "do not go to work. Do not talk to Vince. Understand?" "Yes." "Meet me at 8. Kim's office was small, plain, and safe in the way my childhood never was. She slid a legal pad toward me. "Dates. Times. Who said what?" I talked, and she didn't let me polish Vince into something nicer. When I finished, she said, 2 tracks. Wage theft goes to the labor board. Safety fraud and retaliation goes to OSHA. Insurance fraud can bring in investigators." "That sounds huge," I said. "It is," she replied. "So we do it correctly." She walked me through evidence like I was learning a new language. Export payroll reports with metadata, print bank receipts, pull GPS history, screenshot with timestamps, back everything up to a cloud account Vince didn't know. "You don't hand them a thumb drive and hope," she said. "You build a trail a jury can follow." At 9, Agent Patel joined us on speakerphone. Calm voice, clipped sentences. "Jordan," he said, "has Vince threatened you?" "He implied he could ruin me," I said. "That's a yes," Patel replied. "Did he mention the evidence?" "He told me to return the drive." "Good," Patel said. "That means he knows you have it." Kim leaned forward. "Any recordings? Voicemails? Anything he didn't expect you to keep?" I thought about the accident. Vince's whisper. The clipboard. "Roses, please." "I have audio," I said. "From that morning." Patel's tone shifted. "Bring it in," he said. "And don't tell anyone you have it." In the parking lot, a blank business card was tucked under my wiper like a warning. When I left Kim's office, a fresh crack ran across my windshield. Attorney Kim walked me into the OSHA field office like it was a dentist appointment and not the start of something that could ruin lives. Plain room. Beige walls. Agent Patel on one side, a labor board investigator, Ms. Torres, on the other. They spoke like they'd seen my story 100 times. "Safety fraud is our lane," Patel said. "Falsified training, altered records, retaliation. And wage theft isn't an oops when it's consistent," Torres added. Kim slid my folder across the table. "Payroll exports, bank receipt, GPS logs, screenshots of the lever spreadsheet, and the audio file. My hands shook as I connected my phone to the speaker. The file name was boring. Voice_memo_10032400718, because I'd recorded it by accident. I'd turned on a memo to remind myself to buy printer toner, then forgotten it was running when Vince shoved the clipboard at me. I pressed play. Job site noise. Someone yelling, "Call 911." Then Vince, close to the mic, voice low and private. "You're going to say you did the briefing," he said. "You're going to say the straps were inspected. You're going to say Rosa climbed where she wasn't supposed to." My voice, small. "She didn't." Vince again, with a squeeze of threat. "Sign, and keep your family." Then Rosa, weak. "Please." Silence swallowed the room. Miss Torres stared at the table like she didn't trust herself to look up. Patel's jaw tightened. "That's coercion," Kim said. "That's evidence," Patel corrected, steady. "And it's strong." My phone buzzed, Dana calling. I didn't answer. Patel stood. "We're requesting records officially. If Vince contacts you, don't engage. If you feel unsafe, call me." I nodded, swallowing panic. In the parking lot, Vince called anyway. I answered because fear still had muscle memory. "Kid," he said, cheerful, "I heard you've been telling stories." "I told the truth," I said. His voice dropped into something cold. "Then you're dead to me. And I'll make sure Dana knows exactly what you did." 2 days later, at the first official meeting, Vince walked in wearing a suit and a perfect smile. Vince pointed at me and said, "Jordan deleted the footage." The fallout hit fast, like a storm that had been waiting behind the heat. OSHA showed up at Site 7B on Monday morning. Hard hats, clipboards, questions about training logs, and missing footage. Vince handed them bottled water and smiled like friendliness could erase fraud. By lunch, everyone knew. Phones stayed in pockets. Jokes died. Marcus caught my eye and gave me a tiny nod that felt like permission to keep breathing. At 3 p.m., Vince called an all-hands meeting in the warehouse. He stood on a pallet like it was a stage. "Some of you may have heard rumors," he said, voice sad and noble. "I want you to know the company is fine. But someone I trusted, has been spreading lies because they can't handle responsibility." He looked straight at me. 50 faces turned. "My family has been betrayed," he continued. "Until this is resolved. Jordan is suspended pending review." Suspended. Like I was the danger. I opened my mouth, and Dana's voice rose from the back, thin. "Vince, maybe not in front of." He cut her off with a gentle gesture. "It's okay, honey. Transparency matters." After the meeting, my access badge didn't work. HR, Vince's cousin, handed me a box for my desk items like I was being politely evicted. On the drive home, VNV posted on Facebook, "We take safety seriously. False accusations will be addressed legally." My name wasn't there, but my phone lit up anyway. Supportive texts, angry texts, scared texts. That night, someone slid a photo under my apartment door. It was me walking into Kim's office. Under it, in marker, "We see you." I called Patel. He told me to file a report and stay somewhere else. I packed a bag and drove to a motel off the interstate, hands shaking the whole way. Dana called 8 times. When I finally answered, she didn't say hello. "Jordan," she said, voice wrecked. "Vince says you're trying to destroy us." "I'm trying to stop him," I said. She inhaled like it hurt. "He's in the hospital," she whispered. "He had a stress episode." I didn't believe her, and that made me hate myself. Then Dana said, "He wants to see you tonight, and he won't take no." I didn't go to the hospital. Kim told me not to. Patel told me not to. Rosa said, "That's his stage. Don't step onto it." So I stayed in the motel and let my old guilt scream itself tired. 2 weeks later, subpoenas hit VNV. Vince stopped calling. His lawyer started. OSHA found missing footage, backdated logs, and identical Jordan signatures copy-pasted across days. The labor board matched payroll edits to cash withdrawals made in Vince's name. When Rosa got her first back pay check, she cried so hard she couldn't talk. I sat on her couch while her son watched cartoons, and she kept wiping her cheeks with the back of her good hand. "They try to make me feel crazy," she said finally. "They're good at that," I told her. She looked at me. "Not anymore." I lost the job, obviously. Vince made sure of that. But Kim helped me file whistleblower paperwork, and Patel connected me with a union contractor who needed a payroll admin with a spine. On my first day, my supervisor said, If something looks wrong, you say it. We don't punish truth here. I started therapy. I learned fear can be a habit. I learned my silence had never been kindness. It had been training. Dana didn't speak to me for a month. Then one afternoon she showed up at my new apartment, smaller than I remembered, like someone had drained her. I didn't know, she whispered. I wanted to say, yes you did. Instead I asked, what do you want, Mom? She held out a manila folder. I found this in Vince's desk, she said. Copies of your confession, and the camera footage he hid. My heart thudded. Why are you giving it to me? Dana's eyes finally met mine. Because I'm tired of being afraid, she said. And because he hit me when I asked questions. My breath caught. I have a safe place, she added quickly. But I need you to come with me to Kim. I stared at the folder, then at my mother, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Possibility. Dana stepped closer and said, I'm ready to speak up too, Jordan. A year ago, if you asked me who I was, I would have said Vince's payroll guy. Not because I loved the job, but because it was easier than admitting I didn't know who I was without him. Speaking up didn't make me brave overnight. It made me nauseous. It cost me my job, my reputation in a town that loves a smiling businessman, and weeks of sleep where every shadow looked like punishment. It cost me the fantasy that my mother would choose me automatically. But it also did something quieter and bigger. It returned my life to me. Rosa didn't just get back pay. She got a settlement that covered her medical bills and enough to move to a safer place. Marcus and a few others testified about the corrections they'd watched happen for years. Vince's community builder mask cracked in public, and once people saw the cruelty underneath, they couldn't unsee it. Dana is still a work in progress. Some days she cries and says, I'm sorry, like it's a prayer. Some days she defends him out of habit, then catches herself, embarrassed. Healing is not a straight line. Neither is leaving. I moved into a small apartment with a second-hand couch and a window that faces sunrise. On my key ring, there's a little metal tag from my new company that says safety first. It's cheesy, but it makes me breathe easier. If you're reading this and you're the quiet one, here's what I wish someone told me sooner. Document everything. Screenshots with dates. Pay stubs. Photos. Save voicemails. Export files with metadata. Back it up somewhere the person controlling you can't access. New email, new cloud, even printed copies in a trusted friend's house. Don't warn the person you suspect. Warnings give them time to erase. Find one ally who isn't invested in keeping the peace. And if you're scared, treat that fear as information, not a command.